This is a presentation of the survey published by the Afrobarometer Research Institute, released on 22nd August 2024, focusing on the Gambia's constitutional reforms process and good governance. Lead researcher Sait Matty delivered this presentation on their findings.
Also, is a picture of the educational, categorization of also some of our respondents as well. And of course, we see Muslims and Christians 97 and 3%. Yeah. So in terms of constitutional reforms, you see that 7 out of 10 Gambians, 71% express support for a new national constitution, while a quarter, 24% say there is no need for a new constitution. And we also seen that 2/3, that is almost 7 out of 10 Gambians agree or strongly agree that the rejected 2020 constitution should be reintroduced to the National Assembly for amendment. Only 3 in 10, 29% say the National Assembly was right to reject the draft constitution proposed in 2020. And I think it's important at this minute to say that within Afrobarometer, every country is allowed to include 5 country-specific questions. And for us, we decided to include questions around, constitutional review and transitional justice, because since 2018, we've also been tracking these processes because they are also very critical in our conversation. And so, anticipating that the country will get back to the constitutional discussion, we decided to include this particular question. Yeah. So as you can see the graphs, the question that we asked, in your opinion, do you think that the Gambia needs a new national constitution, or have you not had enough to say? And so we can see from the graph that 71% of the population want a new constitution, think the country needs a new constitution, and only 24 that says no. Yeah. In terms of the demographic representation, one can see that there's a strong support across, all demographics. But also, when you look deeper, also you can see, slight differences, especially for rural urban. It seems like more people in urban area are likely to say that, the Gambia needs new constitution compared to those in the rural communities. And so the question for me and for many advocates is, why is that the case? But also, if you look at in terms of age, post-secondary education, you can also see, compared to no formal education, those with post-secondary education are likely to say that we want a new constitution. So education, to an extent, do count. Yeah. So in terms of the rejection of the constitution by the National Assembly, and I think it's also important to put context to this particular question, because when the constitution was rejected, there were attempts to bring it back, but we wanted to also see and hear what the people have to say in terms of that. And so we saw that 67% of the population, that is 7 out of every 10 Gambian, want this constitution to be reintroduced for amendment in the National Assembly. But we also asked them whether the National Assembly was right in rejecting the draft constitution, whether they agree or disagree in terms of that. And as you can see, more than half, 51%, say that they disagree or strongly disagree with the National Assembly rejecting the constitution. And why is it important that we ask such questions? Because when this bill was rejected, we saw quite a lot of debate, that we were speaking on behalf of the people, but we decided to ask the people whether they agree or not in terms of that. So the next slide also looks at commitment to a new constitution, because immediately after the constitution was rejected, also in the public space, we've seen debate, among political parties, particularly the 2 main. And so we decided to also ask the public whether they feel that these 2 main political parties, the ruling party and also the opposition party, are committed to a new constitution, because eventually, citizens have to be part of that process. But from the figures you see, it seems like for the UDP, 3 in 10 Gambians, is about 34% think that they are committed to a new constitution, while for the NPP you have about 27%. So the analysis is that generally people do not feel that both parties are committed to a new constitution. Yeah. Next. So in terms of one of the other issues that also basically characterized the debate around constitution has also been the issue of term limit. And so as you can see, from the graph, in terms of the population, 86% of the population supports, that the constitution should have So have a limit on how long the president can serve. And of course, you can see almost 9 out of 10 Gambians say that there must be term limit in the constitution. While of course we have 12 that oppose presidential term limits. So also this particular question we have been tracking over the years. So if you can see from 2018, 2018, 2021, 2022, and now 2024, the demand for term limit is very strong. I mean, as you can see, it is even going up. It was 86 now, is also going up as well. So citizens have consistently said that term limit is very important to be included in the constitution. Yeah. So in terms of true reconciliation and justice, yeah. Compared to 2018 and 2021, we've seen that more Gambians are calling for those accused of crimes and human rights abuses during President Jammeh's regime to be tried in court. The proportion asking for President Jammeh to be extradited has increased by 6 percentage points compared to 2022, from 55% to 61%. And we've also seen that fewer than half, 45%, say the government has demonstrated commitment to the implementation of the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparation Commission recommendations. And this is a 10 percentage point decrease from when we asked this question in 2022, where you can see that 55%. And also 8 in 10 respondents, that is 79% of Gambians should say that Gambians should reconcile since the TRRC has completed its work. Like I was saying, we were also very much interested in tracking the TRRC and some of the things that have to come to follow, but more so in terms of what the people have to say. And as you can see, in terms of those accused of crimes during Jammeh administration should be tried in court, you can see that increasing, from 68% to 73% in 2021, 76%, and now from 2022 to 2024, we've seen 2 percentage point increase. But of course, in terms of whether Jammeh should be extradited, we've seen that has been fluctuating. From 2018, we see 51% say it should, government should seek extradition of Jammeh. It also increased to 61, and in 2022, it declined to 55%, and now it's back to 61%. So, but still, is a very strong, is a strong call for, for Jammeh to be extradited. But also, we looked at government commitment, as you can see from the, from the graph. In 2022, when we decided to bring this particular issue, because there was also a lot of questions around political will. In our conversation today in Gambia, in transition and everything, we talk about political will across the board. So we were very much interested in commitment. Commitment is one way to measure political will, but also more from the, public side. And interestingly, when I saw this now in terms of my PhD, I'm even thinking about looking at this particular issue to explore. So we see that government, what perception of government commitment in terms of implementing TJ has declined, and from 55% to 45%. But since the TRRC has completed its work, all Gambians should reconcile, and we've seen that also it is also increasing. The call for reconciliation for Gambians to reconcile since the TRRC have finished its work is also increasing, 76 and also now 79%. Yeah? So on views of democracy, in terms of the key findings, we've seen that large majorities of Gambians continue to express support for democracy and reject non-democratic alternatives such as military rule, one-party rule, and one-man rule. I think we know, we're coming from that history, about how 49% describe their country as a full democracy or a democracy with minor problems, and this is a 13-point decrease from 2018, which was 62%. And the proportion who say that they are fairly satisfied or very satisfied with the way democracy works in the country has declined by 22 percentage points since 2018, from 59 to 37%. Yeah? So much food for thought, huh? Yeah? So you can look at it in terms of the demand. The demand for democracy, it is what people want and want to see happen. Clearly, people in Gambia reject one-man rule, 91%, as you can see from 2018, 94 down, but now it's going back to 92%. Reject one-party rule, 86%, 89%, 92%, and 89%. So there's a strong rejection, almost at 9 out of 10 Gambians, you can see. And also in terms of reject military rule, we have 78, 81, 76 is even though going down in terms of 65 now. Support for democracy also we've seen 68, 70, 64, and now at 65, even though climbing a little bit. So if the citizens expect this in terms of the demand, in terms of the supply of democracy, we've seen that country is a full democracy or democracy with a minor problem. We've seen that also declining. You know, in 2018, Gambians generally say 62%. That is like 6 out of 10 Gambians say the country is a full democracy or democracy with a minor problem. Is declining by 1% take point in 2021. In 2022, it also declined, and now it also is improving with 1 percentage point increase. And fairly very satisfied with the way democracy works. We can see also in terms of 59% in 2018, but now in 2024, we see that only 37% of the population are satisfied in terms of the way that democracy is working in the country. Yeah. So we also assess leaders' performance, you know, and majorities report improvements during President Barrow's tenure with regards to freedom of speech, 80%, youth participation in politics, 69%, women's participation in politics, 67%, respect for human rights, 65%, and preservation of law and order, 55%. We also included this particular question as part of the country-specific question because there was also debate inside, you know, Jammeh's time was better, Barrow's time was better, but so it's as a public, is a product of the public, so we decided to also, you know, ask questions in terms of what was better and what was worse. So we also see that, however, more than 2/3, 68% believe peace and security in the country have deteriorated under President Barrow. But also a majority of Gambians disapprove of the way the president, 62, members of parliament, 65, and local government councillors, 60%, have performed their jobs over the past 12 months. Yeah? This graph basically shows better or worse under President Barrow, and the question we asked, in your opinion, would you say the following conditions have become better or worse since President Adama Barrow assumed office in 2017? And if you look at it in terms of, you know, freedom of speech, youth participation in politics, women participation in politics, government respect for human rights, preservation of law and order, gender-based violence, rural-urban equality, peace and security, has been seen. But if you look at those in green, where you see better or much better, you see that President Barrow has mostly, you know, citizens are saying freedom of speech has improved, youth participation in politics also has improved, but also we're saying, you know, where they are also somehow divided in terms of rural-urban inequality, for instance, but for peace and security, almost 7 out of 10 Gambians say he is not, well, he did not do well in that regard. I mean, yesterday I reminded the group that this particular question, whenever I say it, it reminds me of 2014 when I got arrested, because I was asking Gambians whether they approve or disapprove Yaya Jammeh then. But it also speaks to the earlier slide where it talks about the fact that people are free to do whatever they want to do as well. So in terms of views on leaders' performance, in terms of the approval rating, we asked, do you approve or disapprove of the way that the following people have performed their jobs over the past 12 months, or haven't you had enough about them to say? So we can say in terms of the president, 36%, that is 4 out of 10, approve his work, while 6 out of 10 did not approve, or strongly disapprove or strongly disapprove. And for local government councillors, we have 34% and 60%, and I think at the bottom is the National Assembly, and this is the place where our constitution has to go to. So it's important that we need to look at that. So they are the least disapproved in terms of their performance. So in terms of elections and democratic governance, we've seen that most Gambians, 88%, support elections as the best way to choose their leaders. 7 in 10 Gambians, 70% say it is better for power to sometimes change hands from one political party to another, a slight increase from 2022, that is 66%. A majority, 70% of respondents say that Gambians with dual citizenship should be allowed to vote in general elections, but fewer than half, 47, think they should be allowed to stand for elective office. This is also part of the country-specific questions. We decided to bring this up because there's a lot of conversation around the role of the diaspora in terms of what they're supposed to do. So, you know, as one that wants to see what people want or not, we decided to bring that So as you can see, in terms of popular support for election, it still is 88%. It has gone, but it's also coming up again. Gambians, and I usually say that Gambians have been voting since 1965 or even before. So historically, this country understands election despite the dictatorship. So it's important, and it's good to see also that people still believe that it is through elections that we also elect our leaders. So if you can look at the other methods also, it's less. Yeah. Support for political power change. We've seen democratic needs political party turnover, and for us, the only turnover we had was in 2016. Well, if we take into account the time that Per Sarnjai and Jawara, Jawara replaced Per Sarnjai as PM, but in 2016 is when we historically have a political turnover. And we've seen also that Gambians, 70%, that is like 7 out of 10 Gambians are saying that, there should be, democracy needs political party turnover. That it's not only one party that should continue. And you have now also about 29% say it's okay if one party always wins. They have no problem with that. But based on this, it seems like majority have problem with one party winning all the time. So in terms of dual citizenship, Gambians who are also citizens of countries should be allowed to vote in general election. As we can see, 70% support that. But in terms of whether Gambians who are also citizens of other countries should be allowed to stand for elective offices, Gambians are divided on that question. So I think this requires also further debate and conversation in terms of how to address that. So in terms of support for multi-party competition, we've also seen from 2018, 75 decline and was steady between 2021 and 2022, but we've also seen that it is also coming up in terms of 64%, where people say many parties are needed, and almost only 35% say many parties are divisive. So, yeah. And so in terms of accountable governance versus efficient governance, we asked whether which of the following statement is closest to your views. And this is the percentage who agree or strongly agree with each of the statement. It is important to have a government that can get things done even if we have no influence over what it does. It is more important for citizens to be able to hold government accountable even if that means making decisions more slowly. So if you look at in terms of accountable governance, still majority of Gambians want that, but the red the red line should also, raise some cause for concern. Why is it that more Gambians are saying it is more important to have a government that can get things done, even if we have no influence over what it does? So I think for me, these are also interesting things that we should also look at. Yeah. But why also these views on democratic governance? What do influence these democratic governance views? We've seen that, we ask them, respondents, in your opinion, how often in this country does the president ignore the courts and laws of the country? Does the president ignore parliament and just do what he wants? Are people treated unequally under the law? Do officials who commit crimes go unpunished? Do ordinary people who break the law go unpunished? And you can see the responses. Officials who commit crimes go unpunished. We see that is 59%. So, to what extent is accountability there from citizens' perspective is there? People treated unequally under the law, president ignores laws, ordinary people who break the law go unpunished. Even ordinary people, not only, officials, but even ordinary people, 42% is saying that, if they break the law, they go unpunished. And also in terms of president ignores parliament, we see 40% saying that, even though, yeah. So, in terms of conclusion, we've seen that a majority of Gambians say the country needs a new constitution. 8 in 10 respondents, 79% say Gambians should be reconciled since the TRRC has completed its work. Large majorities of Gambians continue to express support for democracy and reject non-democratic alternatives, such as military rule, one-party rule, and one-man rule. And we've also seen that a growing number of Gambians are calling for the accused of crimes and human rights abuses during President Jammeh's regime also to be tried in court. Thank you very much. But before going, I want to please help me thank the CRPD team. When this data was collected, I was in UK doing something else, but it was led by Mariama Davis there, and the entire team, Babukar Fati, and all of them But also want to thank Mami, the communication for West Africa, coordinator for West Africa, and the Maghreb, our boss. Yes, so we thank you all, and also most importantly to the respondents. As you can see, these were people that, I mean, Afrobarometer questionnaire is so huge, but these were people that at least spend an hour or, you know, hour plus talking to us and getting their views. So we really appreciate, you know, all the contributions and the role that people have done. But also for us, in terms of the Constitution, we brought this up because we were anticipating, we wanted to see what citizens were saying, but now the Constitution is out. I think, you know, we'll also try to see if we can also do a 10.5 Afrobarometer survey, where we can also go deeper to look into whether people understand the content of the Constitution, whether they agree on that, at least to also bring the voices of everyday Gambians on the conversation framework as well, so that in terms of policy making, we'll be able to address all that. Thank you so much.